Tonight, more legal trouble for Donald Trump, and it doesn't involve Russia, or it does, but not in our segment. New York State's lawsuit against the Trump Foundation, it's still moving ahead, and now the organization's tax returns, they have been released. This one is getting very interesting. Also, speaking of the president, he had a lousy track record when it comes to candidates he endorsed in the midterms. I know he says otherwise, but we've got the facts to back it up. He also trashed fellow Republicans when they lost. Will the GOP learn their lesson from that? Then, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, we find, is meeting with President Trump tomorrow. Why? Well, they are political opponents, but they can't agree on one thing, that New York needs major help in infrastructure. Could they actually get together to help the Northeast? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and we begin tonight with a legal setback for Donald Trump and the Trump Foundation. A judge has just ruled that New York State lawsuit against the foundation can in fact move forward. New York's Attorney General filed the suit saying there was illegal conduct at the family's charity, which is run by Trump as well as his adult kids. Now, the suit, it claims the foundation shelled out money for some of Trump's personal causes. It also claims the foundation was so disorganized the board of directors hadn't met in 19 years, and the treasurer didn't even know he was actually on the board. The organization allegedly paid 10 grand for this portrait of Trump that was hanging in the bar over at Trump's Doral Golf Resort. Foundation also caught giving $25,000 to a campaign group connected to the Florida Attorney General Pam Biondi. It is illegal to use charitable funds for political contributions. And I should mention, Biondi was also considering whether or not to investigate fraud allegations at the Trump University. She decided, for whatever reason, not to pursue the case. I'll let you figure that one out. Suit also claims the foundation paid $158,000 to settle a lawsuit for a man who was denied $1 million in a hole-in-one tournament at the Trump Club. You got to work at that one. Plus, the foundation's tax records were just released. They show some interesting information. Trump's company donated $500,000 to the organization last year, and one of his golf clubs chipped in another $250,000. But the foundation didn't give out a dime last year. In fact, New York Attorney General Barbara Underwood describes the foundation as follows, quote, little more than a checkbook for payments from Mr. Trump or his businesses to nonprofits, regardless of their purpose or legality. All of this reminding us of a Seinfeld episode where George Costanza invented a charity to avoid giving Christmas gifts.
We've got a problem. There's a memo here from accounting telling me there's no such thing as the human fund.
Well, there could be.
But there isn't.
Well, I could give the money back.
Yeah. George, I don't get it. If there's no human fund, those donation cards were fake.
Art imitating life here. I want to bring in our panel, Richard Brodsky, former Democratic New York State Assemblyman from Westchester, professor at NYU, Donna Carter, political journalist and author, conservative strategist Bill O'Reilly with the Vondelay Architecture Company. No, I'm kidding. And Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent.
Costanza.
Yes. Listen. Is huge amount of legal developments percolating with the Mueller probe, and tomorrow night I'm going to be getting into all of that with all the interesting figures, or the Manaforts, the Stones, the Corseys, and where that goes. That's for tomorrow. But this issue closer to home, and in many ways, openings that on state levels, particularly in New York, Trump has real legal exposure, and he can't get out of these with pardons. But it also opens up a fascinating look, kind of, Richard, doubling down in many ways what the Times expose about, his tax dealings or tax avoidances, all the various bankruptcies, the money, the lack of any real organization, but also complete intent to just enrich some and hurt everyone.
I'm not sure he's personally going to ever end up on the receiving end of legal liability. Clearly,
kids could be.
Yeah, the members of the board, the officers, those people. But the notion that you pay, you deny a guy a hole-in-one.
That's the one that bothers me the most.
And you pay him out of a charitable foundation where the taxpayer is essentially absorbing about a third of the cost. This, I'll say, it's unsurprising. will not change anybody's view of them. People who like them are going to like them anyway. People who don't are just going to nod their heads and say yes. But sooner or later, the wheels of the criminal justice
put on your
system
barrister
are
hat
gonna,
here for a second.
I wouldn't want to
This
defend
was a
this one.
major advancement that Underwood can move forward on this. Who, by the way, let me just say, she's going to be ceding her job to Letitia James in January. She's done a terrific job as the interim AG.
She's staying with the office.
She's staying with the office, but she won't be
Solicitor
there. But you can't just call this fake news and make it go away. All of a sudden, you're going to have discovery. You're going to have some potentially revelatory information that comes out.
It's not going to go away. It's going to be giggle time. But again, no one, even the people who like him as president, don't think of him as a moral paragon.
I guess so. But Bill, I'm a golfer. I'll stick on that one story. For a hole-in-one to count, it has to be a certain yardage, okay, for it to be registered. Usually people take out insurance for that, right?
Exactly.
So that if it happens, whether it's a car, whether it's whatever, in this case $1 million, you're not really paying the money. The
pay
odds of it
$5,000
happening are so insignificant.
Right.
The idea to consciously make the hole technically just shorter than what would be, and not tell anyone because you figure no one's going to make it, then you stiff the guy because you're too cheap to do the insurance. And the only reason to move forward was because the guys made a stink out of it, right? It's so bad on so many levels. Who does those things?
I mean, I totally agree. As a guy who grew up making bets like that, you just never. I don't think you can use the expression we used to use for you don't do it. My question here, though, is, and I really want to ask Richard, do we have to be careful here with doing allowing the suits to go forward with a sitting president from the states? Are we treading on dangerous ground here?
That was already decided when the Bill Clinton suits and Jennifer
So it's
Flowers
already
were-
decided.
No,
Okay.
it's not completely decided. Trump is still appealing on the issue that he's protected as the
There's
president
a
of the
Supreme
United
Court
States.
decision that says a sitting president
I
is not
hear you.
immune
You're correct.
from civil liability.
But he's still going
Does that
forward trying to
concern you,
fight
though?
this.
I mean, that concerns me a little bit.
Get him. Oh, I'm
Get him.
sorry. I don't know where that came from.
Keep in mind, it wasn't the Supreme Court with this composition.
Right. I think, in the end, I think you're not wrong.
You know what I'm saying, right?
But they did make the distinction with criminal and civil for sitting presidents. But there's a pattern here, Andrew,
question.
in so many ways. But even in ways specifically, I mean, I spoke to the authors of the Time series that went through all of this. But I mean, with what he did with Trump University and what's been going on, the idea of using a charity as a vehicle to basically move money around. I mean, remember, we talked about golf before. The idea that when he found out one of his kids' charitable foundations was using the golf course, like no golf club hustles a charity, right? That they were using it. He was like, wait a minute, you're giving him a break on the golf course? Absolutely not. Let's pay him, make him pay the full freight here. It's such a pattern that nobody can say these are one-offs.
Yeah, if proven true, it confirms what we had believed for a long time. I mean, the golf course story had been around for quite some time. That's not new, but the getting to the bottom of it, if Underwood can do that, we may learn a little bit more, and confirming again some of these suspicions about him. I keep coming back to the fact that even though a lot of this was known, I feel like he was so poorly vetted as a president. We didn't know all of it, but then again, we sort of did, and people didn't care. Right. And what does that say about us? I mean, I don't want to get too far away from the legalities and the possible penalties that Trump might face.
Let's be honest, this is not the top of mind in terms of the legal issues facing this president, his administration, and everything else. But to me, while everybody was focused on the probe and where it might go, and we're still far more questions than answers on it, I really thought this story, Dominic, in many ways, is, to Andrew's point, it gets lost in the wash. I don't know anyone in my personal life who would think of doing any of the. Could you imagine using a charitable foundation? You use the monies to buy a portrait for yourself to hang in your country club. I don't know anyone who does these things. And listen, he was in Albany, right? And he doesn't even know anybody who do these things. Maybe a spot.
The
right.
portrait thing is...
Walk in the Brodsky house, oh my God. But that's the point, that the volume of these things that's going on. And I do think the stuff that's going to come out, the idea the board chairman didn't even know that he was on the board, right? And they haven't met in 19 years. They can't even fake it right.
Donald Trump, Richard, has been doing these things for years. And the key part, getting away with it on his tax returns, on his state returns. The sad part about this, while it may be embarrassing, I don't think legally or criminally it's not going to touch him at all. He's going to say fake news, pay some fines, and others will be held
You know
responsible.
what I don't get, Richard? I know we're heavy, so really quick. Take Trump pre-presidential run. With everything we learned in the Times in terms of a lifetime of being a tax cheat, okay, and with what he's done with the foundations, to say that he was a target-rich, personality, why didn't somebody just leave it in New York State?
I admire your
Really?
ability to stay outraged. You really have made.
No. I'm saying take away his presidency. You're telling me nobody would have said, "Oh, talk about a political,
Yes.
talk about a scalp I can't take
Yes,
down."
I'm telling
Why
you
didn't they do that?
But I'm dead serious. You maintain a genuine sense of outrage about this, while the rest of the country's looking around and going, "Let's move on." So no.
No, but I'm being serious. Why
You
didn't
are being
for example,
serious.
Why didn't you, for example, I'm being serious. Talk about this is if I was a politician, take down Donald Trump. I mean, I haven't been to an athletic event that he's been at where it hasn't been booed, right? They make a plaque for you in addition to the statue you already have. So I'm saying seriously, why didn't somebody look into this guy as a
in
hustler?
which he is explaining away the chopping up and murder of a journalist? A portrait in a golf club may be small potatoes.
You get
Not
my
paying
point,
all
though.
in one. That's something.
It is. I'm surprised that, there was a lot to be gained by somebody who would take Trump down. I mean, even before he got into politics, it didn't seem like any of this, all of this was happening at Trump University
No one
and this
took
stuff.
it serious.
No, but
And
it
he
just-
was making donations. To answer the question, he was making donations to almost every politician
That's
across
not
the board.
true.
But
He went to Cuomo's bachelor's party, the governor.
But he entertained us in New York for years. He was the Donald and the tabloid.
Yes, entertained.
No, back in the, in the 80s and
I
90s.
killed
you
this
know?
on time here. I just want to get to that. All right, we'll come back. It is election day, believe it or not, in Mississippi as voters. They head to the polls for a runoff election in the Senate race. The president, he's been campaigning for the Republican, but will he hurt more than he helps? We're going to show you his track record and why Republicans maybe, just maybe, might start saying thanks but no thanks to the president.